My name is Ambreesh Khanna. I'm the Vice President for Product Management in the Oracle Financial Services Analytical Applications Organization. What's big data? So the definition of big data is varied depending upon who you talk to, but we can kind of bring everything down to 2 or 3 very simple points. If you take a look at the sources of data that actually are spewing data into your organization, operational systems, etc., we know that there is a lot more data that those systems are generating. So a great example of this is in the capital markets world. Market data rates going back to the late 1990s, early 2000s, we were trying to create systems that could handle 100,000, 200,000 messages per second of market data. Then fast forward to the mid-2000s, we were creating systems to handle 800,000, 900,000, and we somewhere around the 2006-2007 timeframe hit the million messages per second rate. Now we are talking about multiple millions of messages, right? So the point of this is that the existing sources of data that are already bringing data into your organization are generating a lot more data, right? That's the first point. The second point is there are actual data repositories inside of your organization that have been previously ignored. Or if they haven't been ignored, they've been dealt in a very siloed fashion. And some of these, for example, are actual physical paper contracts. Some of these are things like policies, stuff that what we call unstructured data, right? So this is stuff that is customized, unlike market data messages, where you can understand exactly what's in the first byte of a message, what's in the 50th byte of a message, what's in the 100th byte of a message, and how to interpret that message. The unstructured sources of data, like contracts, are all customized, right? So it's very difficult for a machine to actually interpret that. So that's kind of the second source of data, which is the internal data buckets that are either digitized, like emails or customer call logs or web logs, or undigitized, like paper contracts, right? And there are technologies that exist today for digitization and then extracting structure from these unstructured data sources. So that's kind of the second source of data. And then there is a third source of data, which is the exciting, sexy, the stuff that everybody likes to talk about. This is what people like to write about, which is the new kind of whole social media world, right? So what are people saying about a product that I've launched? Can I get more insight into what a customer wants to do if that customer is about to get married, right? This is the whole new world of social media, and this is the third place from where there is a lot more data coming. So a mix of these 3 sources is what we typically end up calling big data. So big data, we think, is extremely relevant to financial services institutions for a variety of reasons. If we just take a look at a customer, the ability for us to be able to gather a lot more information about that customer, looking at internal sources, right? So this whole single customer view nirvana that people have been talking about, well, that still continues to be a nirvana, right? Because the same customer is represented differently in various parts of the organization. And the problem continues to grow worse because, like I said, I mean, if I was to digitize new information and more customer information pops up from internal sources, and now I have more information coming in from external sources, this is either viewed, well, it is a huge problem, we know that, right? But it also needs to be viewed as a fantastic source of new revenue. The ability for us to be able to make customized offers to a particular customer, targeted offers to a particular customer, for the ability for me to be able to say that based on the relationship that I have with this customer, and based on certain characteristics that I've been able to grab about this customer from, Twitter, Facebook, any other external sources of data, perhaps I can create a relationship-based pricing for this particular customer. Perhaps I can create in real time a risk-based price for this particular customer. So we think that the relevance of big data to financial institutions is massive, not only from a data management perspective, but we think this is a fantastic way of getting new revenue inside of the organization. Oracle's doing a tremendous amount of work in the big data space. Oracle's been making very key targeted acquisitions over the past couple of years to enhance its footprint in the big data space. So if we take a little step back, Oracle's been in the data management business for a very long time. Our share in the data management space exceeds by far all of our competitors. So we know a little bit about data management, to say the least. But in the big data space, there are a bunch of whole new series of technologies that have come about, and we've been making acquisitions and putting together products that we think are very relevant to this space, right? So example are, acquisitions of companies like Endeca, creation of a product like the Big Data Appliance, and there are a whole slew of more things that we've done from a technology space. So that's one. Then the other is from an application space, what are we doing? We are taking our existing applications, whether it be the front office applications like our CBIL application, for example, or our mid office, back office applications like our analytical applications, to do deep analysis to be able to figure out what the customer is doing, what sort of risk am I exposed to, so on. We are marrying all of these things together to our underlying technology portfolio to be able to offer, hopefully, turnkey solutions for big data to our customers. Embarking on a journey to big data is not something that most people think about it as a big bang approach, and we think that's a mistake. We think that some very basic things can be done to actually embark on this journey, and the first one of those things is bringing all of your data silos together. We inside of Oracle have created things like data models, and we have technologies for bringing multiple disparate sources of data together to be able to create a common unified platform on top of which applications can be built. So that's kind of the first step, which is attempting to bring multiple siloed data sources together. That's step number one. And then after that, our recommendation is to take one or two use cases and build out those use cases completely, as opposed to doing a big bang. As an example, we can definitely do something in the fraud analytics space. We know that the technology exists. We know that an application exists inside of Oracle to be able to give you new views, to be able to enhance your existing views on fraud analytics. And that's an area that can be attacked relatively quickly. And the return on investment on that area is also something that you will see relatively soon, because it's difficult in this environment to go and ask for budget to go and do what would be otherwise called a quote-unquote science experiment, right? So telling your CFO that I'm actually going to reduce the number of fraud incidents and hence making a positive impact to the bottom line of the bank, that's a good conversation to have. So starting with small projects, we think is the next best thing to do.